Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Fallon and today we're going to be making some flying geese blocks. So today I'm going to mainly be comparing the Fit to Be Geese template and the Flying Geese Quilt Block Foundation paper from It's So Emma. So let's take a look at both of these products and see how you make a Flying Geese block with them. Okay, so the Flying Geese Foundation paper that I am using came in my Jolly box in December from the Fat Quarter Shop. And these make 2 by 4 inch finished Flying Geese blocks. And then the Fit to Be Geese template here I purchased from Open Gate Quilts. And you can see that you can make multiple block sizes. One of them is a 2.5 by 4.5 inch block, and it will finish at 2 inches by 4 inches, just like our foundation paper, to make it really easy for comparing. So you can see that you can make 1, 2, 3, 4 different sized Flying Geese blocks with this template. Now this is the Fit to Be Geese template, but they also have a mini template so you can make even smaller Flying Geese blocks if needed. So I'm going to set this to the side because I'm not using it today. Now I do want to show you what is in the package for the Fit to Be Geese template, just in case you are interested in this template. You will get this paper that shows you all the cutting that you need to know to make each different sized Flying Geese block. So for example, for the one that we are making today, my squares that I cut diagonally twice for the geese units, I need one 5.5 inch square, and then it's cut diagonally twice. So here's my square here that was 5.5 inches, and I cut it twice, so I'll have 4 triangles for the center of my block. Then we'll also have 4 3.25 inch squares that are cut diagonally once. So those are my 4 squares I cut diagonally once, and then I will have how many is it? 8 of the kind of wings on the geese. Okay, so that is basically what you have here for giving you your cutting instructions. And each time you do these cuts, you'll be making 4 Flying Geese units. And then the rest of the ruler, this information sheet shows you how to use the ruler, how to turn it to get your cuts, and to trim up your Flying Geese perfectly. One other thing that comes in the package is a pattern that you can use to practice making your Flying Geese with the template. I like the Open Gate quilt patterns. They're very detailed, have a lot of photos. So it's a great addition to this, this package. Now in the Flying Geese Quilt Block Foundation paper, you'll see that you can make 84 quilt blocks using this. And then when you open it up, you'll see tips and everything for making your Flying Geese, and you'll get your cutting information as well. So for this foundation paper, each time you make these cuts given here, you'll make 2 Flying Geese blocks. So your first cut is 5 inches by 5 3/4 inch rectangle, which you see here. And then 2 3.5 inch squares cut once on the diagonal, so these here. I do like that the foundation paper gives you some examples for quilt block ideas. Yes, the Fit to Be Geese template comes with its own pattern, but it is only for one specific size of Flying Geese. And this one, I like that you have different options for using your Flying Geese that you make. Okay, so let's get started on making our Flying Geese so we can kind of decide which way to make them we like better. So I do want to show you that I already made some, and they actually do fit together very nicely. All these are a mixture of Flying Geese from both the Fit to Be Geese and the Flying Geese foundation paper. So I think the sizing is very, very accurate. So I think you could use either for any project that you have that has the same size requirements on either of these. And here are the extras there. So I'm going to set these to the side, and we'll start with the foundation paper first. So I'm going to rip out one of the papers, and then what we're going to do is we're going to glue our bigger rectangle onto the back of this, and we're going to kind of fit it into the dotted lines. I can see them. I'm not sure if you can see them on camera, but it's these dotted lines on the back. I'm going to try to get this lined up inside of those to make sure everything will fall within our seam allowance. So I'm going to put a nice amount of glue on in the 1 area and then in the 3 area, because I'm not starting with those yet. I'm going to place my fabric down right side up, and then we're going to trim. So I'm going to actually move these out of the side because I don't want to accidentally cut through any of those for the Fit to Be Geese template. So what you want to do first is, one, make sure your glue is nice and attached, and then I'm going to grab a ruler and my rotary cutter and kind of fold back the 2 on that line. And I'm going to trim off 1/4 inch from the paper. And I'm going to set all of the extra fabric and stuff to the side just so that I can kind of see how much waste we're getting, fabric waste we're getting from each method. Because I know that's important to some of us. We don't like wasting a lot of fabric and different things like that. Okay, so we have that trimmed away. And then what we're going to do, and I find it helpful to use glue. You could try and pin if you want, but I put some glue. Need to get a little more out. And they do make fabric glue sticks if you feel more comfortable using that. I haven't had any trouble with using just the Elmer's glue that I have on hand. So I put glue right along the edge of the fabric on both sides of the trim down side where 2 is going to go. And then I just line up my fabric right along that edge, and I leave some overhang on both sides and press that on. So these are right sides together. Okay, and then I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew along the line between 1 and 2 on both sides. And I want to let you know that I did lower my stitch length per the tips on the foundation paper packaging so that it allows for easier tearing when I get to that step. So I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and sew right along those lines. Okay, so you can see I sewed right along those lines on the other side, and you can see it's pretty close to 1/4 inch on the other side for that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press these seams open or over and add just a little bit of heat so they lay nicely. Now make sure you don't have your steam on your iron because it will warp the paper a bit and it could make it a little bit harder for completing the block. So we're going to trim excess fabric off again on this time on the between the 1 and 3 side. So I'm going to peel back through some of these stitches because I did stitch over the line about 1/4 inch and back stitch just to make sure everything held nicely. So I'm going to fold along that line and then trim off extra fabric 1/4 of an inch again. I'm going to do that on both sides. All right, and so now we are going to again add glue along each side where the seam will be and put our triangle on and go sew following our line on the other side. Put these down right sides together, a little bit of overlap on each side. Okay, so we're going to sew along the line between 1 and 3. All right, so we have that sewn, and again we're going to press them open and add a little bit of heat so the seam lays nice. Looks like a square and a square block right now. All right, so now we are already ready to trim this block. So I'm going to grab my acrylic ruler, and you can see it has a trim on this line. So we're trimming on the solid line around here. And again, we're getting 2 blocks. So what I like to do is line up my ruler where I can get 2 of these sides at once. So look and make sure I'm lined up nicely. Cut through there, cut across here. And I do have a rotating cutting mat, which would help on this step to turn and be able to see it a little bit better, but this works okay too. So now we're just going to trim off along the middle here. And then we still have one more step after this because we need to pull off all these papers. Okay, so we have all these little papers that if you lower your stitch length enough, they're pretty easy to tear off. But you know, it's just another step that you have to do with these. The nice thing is you get really, really accurate blocks, but I do think these foundation papers take a lot more time, in my opinion. And you know, you get a lot of waste from them because all of the papers and extra fabric. But I think they're really, really good for beginners because then you can kind of see how these blocks come together, and they're very, very easy to follow with the numbers and all the instructions for them. But there we go. 2 very nice, perfect flying geese blocks. And just so you can see, that is all the papers and the extra fabric from just making 2 blocks. So, you know, I think they work, the foundation papers work really well, but it is a consumable product. So you would have to purchase this again if you need to make more blocks, or, you know, I know some people have said that they just make copies of them, but you're still going to have to pay for the paper and the ink to make them again. Like I said, I think they're really good for people who are beginners. So you can kind of see how the block comes together, but it definitely isn't something that I would personally repurchase again. I do think it's really nice that it has these extra block ideas. And I think for harder blocks, this makes a lot of sense. Like, you know, pineapple blocks and paper piecing makes a lot of sense for blocks that would be really hard to put together in other ways. You know, like very intricate animals and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure use foundation paper. But I think something like this, in my opinion, the Fit to Be Geese template, is something that you can reuse over and over again, and it has multiple sizes rather than having to buy foundation paper for each size that you need. That's just my opinion though. I know a lot of people love these, and I do think it works really well. You know, these are perfect flying geese blocks. So definitely does what it says it will do for you. So now let's take a look at the Fit to Be Geese template. You can already tell I really like it. I made a lot of these, you know, trying out the template and everything, and it really works really well. So we already have our cuts here. And another reason I do like this template is because I love to chain piece. So with this one, you can easily chain piece your blocks together. So what I do is I lay out all of my bigger triangles, and then I know all of these smaller triangles are going to go on one side over here. So I picked up from the wrong one. So what I do is I go to the sewing machine and I will sew a 1/4 inch seam along the diagonal of this smaller block. And I make sure to keep the bottom of the triangle lined up with the wide bottom of the bigger triangle, and make sure I have a tail hanging off the opposite side over here, because that'll give you that nice 1/4 inch across the top of the larger triangle so that you can get nice perfect points through here. So just get them all ready. And if you knew how many you needed for whatever pattern you're going to do, you could get them all. If you need, you know, 50 of these, you could get all 50 set up to go to sew along the one side. And that's something that I noticed with the foundation paper, is I really couldn't find a way that I could make more than 2 blocks at a time. You know, there's not a way that you can chain piece whatever, you know, the 1 and 2s on this side, 1 and 2, the 1 and 2 line on this side, and keep doing it with the other papers. That really made sense. I like with this one that I can sit and chain piece all these. And you know, it might not be something that a beginner would be comfortable doing. So like I said before, I understand why this would be appealing to certain people, while the Fit to Be Geese template would be appealing to others. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and chain piece all of these. Okay, so I have all these sewn, and the same with the other, with the foundation paper, we're going to press these all open. I press them to the darker fabric. All right, so now we're going to sew the triangle onto the other side, kind of doing the same thing, just on the opposite side. I line up the bottom of the smaller triangle along the bottom of the larger, and raw edges together, and then you'll see that the point of the triangle on the top hangs off a little bit, and also a 1/4 inch seam along there. And I just again get these all ready and lined up, as many as I would need to do for whatever pattern I'm choosing to do. I just get them all stacked, and then I take them over to the sewing machine and sew that 1/4 inch seam. And make sure you have your right sides together so that you don't have to pull any stitches out. All right, so now that we have all of these sewn together and pressed, we are going to start trimming them with our Fit to Be Geese ruler. So all of the cutting information is on the paper they provide to you. So I'm going to walk through it. Now, the first thing we're going to do is trim the top of our rectangle, and the way that it's done on this ruler will give you that perfect 1/4 inch to get your perfect 1/4 inch at the top of your flying geese so that all your points line up perfectly. So I'm going to line this triangle right up at the seams, and then we're going to trim across the top. So easy. Now we're going to flip it, and this time we're going to find the red dashed lines, 2.5 by 4.5. So the red line, the black line, and line it up at the bottom. And then you have this center line that you can line up at these, the center line you can line up at the point to help you make sure you're staying straight as well. So we have that black line lined up on the edge of the fabric, and we'll trim the bottom. Okay, now we can keep this turned to the side, and now we're using the red dash lines, the 2.5 by 4.5, to trim the sides of the flying geese. So we're going to line up the 2.5 by 4.5 on the top and the bottom, and we'll find the 2.5 by 4.5 line makes an X, a red X. We want that red X to be lined up right at the point of the flying geese. And once we see the red dash line is lined up along the top and the bottom of our flying geese block, and the X is at the point of it, we can trim off one side, and then we'll turn the block and we'll trim off the other side. Now that one side is trimmed, you can see that the dotted red line, the 2.5 by 4.5, goes all the way around perfectly on 3 sides, and then you can trim off the one side that's left. And then we have our perfect flying geese block. So I'm going to go through cutting the rest of these, and we'll take a look at all of our flying geese together. Okay, so here are our 4 finished flying geese blocks using the Fit to Be Geese ruler from Open Gate Quilts. So as you can see, they all turn out perfect. Both of the blocks from the Quilt Block Foundation paper from It's So Emma and the blocks from the Fit to Be Geese ruler, I think turn out perfect. Like, you're gonna get great blocks from either of them. And as you can see finished, they look really good. So all sewn together, I think, you couldn't go wrong with either, because like I said, this is a mixture of blocks from both the foundation paper and the Fit to Be Geese, so they turn out perfect. My final thoughts on them though are that I do like that the Fit to Be Geese ruler is a product you can use over and over again that has multiple sizes. I can chain piece it. So I think for me, this one is a better fit. And plus, I think it gives a lot less waste, very little extra fabric here. You're going to get it with any blocks needing to trim it up, and I think it's very minimal with this one. The cut sizes match up really well where you don't get a lot of waste, and plus this is from making 4 blocks. So With the Quilt Block foundation paper, it's a consumable product. Once you buy this package and use them all, you either have to purchase another or save one and, you know, copy them, print them yourself. Hope that when your copier matches the size perfectly and you get the right size blocks. But either way, you're going to be using ink and paper. So I feel like it's still a consumable product. Maybe you're not having to pay for this pad again, but you will have to pay for the paper and the ink. And then you get a ton of waste. And this is just from 2 blocks versus 4. Yes, some of this isn't fabric. Some of this is paper through here. So we can compare that. Get all the papers off. But it's still more fabric. You could take away the triangles and say, hey, I can try to save these and use them for something else. Use them to, you know, stuff pillows. You could use save all this to use it to stuff pillows. And then the waste is similar if you decide to try to keep these. However, you still have a ton of paper here. So if you are trying to, you know, not waste a ton of paper, you would still have this waste there. So just some things to think about. But overall, you know, they are both really great products. It just depends on what you are looking for. With either one, I got perfect Flying Geese blocks, so I'm happy to use either of them. Just this one is probably more for me because it's reusable. I can use it over and over. It has 4 different sizes on it, so I can use it for multiple different patterns. And then when you add in that you can purchase that mini Fit to be Geese template as well, you can get tons and tons of sizes of Flying Geese that are perfect every time for your pattern. So for me, this one I like a little bit more, but I'd like to hear from you. Let me know what you think in the comments. Which product do you think you would like more? Which one would fit your style a little bit better? I would love to hear from you. And you can look down in the description of this video. I'll put links to both products. I'll put a link to the Fit to be Geese template as well as the mini. If you like working with those smaller blocks, that one might be one that more fits your quilting style, but they're both honestly really, really great. So I'd like to hear from you on what you think of both. If you like this video, please give it a like. I really appreciate it. It helps my channel a lot. And if you aren't already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe and hit the bell notification. That helps my channel a lot as well, and it'll let you see videos as they post. I will be posting a lot of comparison videos like this and reviews of other products, tutorials, and I also do a lot of quilt box unboxings if you're interested in those. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you are having a wonderful January. I'll see you next time. Bye.